"I'm having an affair," she said. To be honest, at first this laconic phrase did not penetrate my consciousness. I heard the words, they were crisp and clear, but my mind didn't want or couldn't process them. She stared at me steadily as I popped another piece of delicious pickled pork into my mouth. "Did you hear what I said, Sal?" I nodded, my mind flooded with wonderful taste, slowly, creakily deciphering her words. She repeated it for me one more time. "I said I was having an affair." "I heard you, Arya. There's no need to repeat myself," I finally responded after swallowing a piece. She cut it off, picked it up with a fork, and put another piece of her dinner in her mouth, waiting for my reaction. "By the way, the pork is delicious," I muttered. "Is that all you can say? I'm telling you I'm having a fucking affair, and you're commenting on dinner, for God's sake." "Arya, could you please stop saying that damn word?" I hissed through my teeth. As the situation became clearer, questions began to appear in my mind. Who, when, where, and of course, why? Trying to sort them out somehow, I asked, "How long?" She winced slightly when she heard that. At least it was a positive sign. She seemed to be feeling at least a little embarrassed. "A couple of months," she admitted reluctantly. "That's it. That means a couple of months," I repeated after her, putting down my fork. "I suppose that explains the lovely dinner tonight. I take it that's it. This is our last dinner." After these words, she seemed to lose her confidence and became nervous. "What? What does last supper mean? Why all of a sudden?" "Well, let's see if I understood you correctly," I said, pushing the plate with the unfinished dinner aside and folding my hands on the table in front of me. "So you had an affair that lasted for several months. We're here tonight, just the two of us. You've cooked a great dinner, and now you've decided it's time for confession." I thought about it for a while and made an assumption about what would follow this little revelation. "You're leaving me." She took a deep, heavy breath, and then her breathing turned into a long, soft exhalation. "I understand. No, Selwyn, I'm not leaving you." "Then what was the point of your confession?" "Ah, it must have amused you so much that you just couldn't wait to tell me everything and rub my nose in it, did I guess?" This time my words clearly disturbed her, and Arya hesitated for a while before answering, with a note of tremor in her voice. I was plagued by guilt, and I didn't want to keep lying to you. This whole situation, she was killing me. I hate it. You hate it, and it's killing you, but not enough to make you stop," I replied sarcastically. "Sal, I should have told you. It was eating me up from the inside." She moaned with an almost martyred look. "So who is this weasel who seduces other people's wives?" I interrupted her outpouring. "You don't know him. He's not from around here," she replied quickly. "This is not an answer to the question." "So who is he?" I hissed irritably through my teeth again. The displeased grimace reappeared on her face. She clearly did not want to answer. "We work together. He's the production manager at Tisdale," she said reluctantly, pushing back a little in her chair. "I ask you again, who is he?" I repeated my question with an insistence that did not hide my growing irritation. "His name is Phil," she conceded. "So this is Phil, the production manager from Tisdale, and you obviously meet during your weekly visits?" "Yes. And it's been going on for 2 months now. So what exactly did you want to achieve tonight, Arya?" "I don't have any expectations," she murmured softly. One might almost say, almost whispered. Now my wife looked scared, with tears swollen at the corners of her eyes. "I've heard people say how beautiful novels are and how much liveliness and fun they bring," she continued. "All these tricks, lies, they are supposed to make everything more exciting. But all it brought me was sleepless nights and indigestion." When she made her confession, I saw the obvious relief reflected on her face, and a slight blush returned color to Arya's cheeks. "Okay, then let's try to come from the other side. What do you think should have happened after I heard your confession?" I puzzled her with a new question. "I don't know, Sal, like I said. I didn't have any expectations," she shook her head. "That's not true, and we both know it," I said. "No one drops such a bomb without replaying the possible consequences in their head. 100 times, if not more. We have 17 years of what I thought was a happy marriage behind us. You know me well enough to have certain expectations." She nodded slowly, and a long sigh of resignation escaped from her previously tightly compressed lips. Okay, fine. I expected you to explode, that you would yell at me and say everything you think about me. I expected curses and harsh words to fall on my head. And then? To be honest, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. Well, if you didn't have any expectations, let's talk about what exactly you hoped would happen in the end. Did you expect my forgiveness? Or did you think that I would kick you out? That I'll leave on my own? What exactly were you hoping for? Forgiveness? She said thoughtfully, as if to herself. No, not really. Acceptance? No, that's not it either. Probably. Yes, perhaps understanding is the right word. I was hoping that you would see this as a starting point. Starting point? I snapped, slamming my fist on the table. How, God forgive me, can this be a starting point? Damn it, Arya. This is the end. Not the beginning. You've lived with me for 17 years? Did you really think that I would say, don't worry, darling, we can overcome this? No, I didn't expect anything, she repeated, wincing slightly. You asked me what I was hoping for, so I was hoping that you would listen to me and then understand what I'm trying to explain. This tiny point, a brief moment in time, can be the beginning of something wonderful for us. Anger, born deep inside me, twisted my bubbling guts into a knot, and the food I had eaten was ready to burst out. Oh, yeah, a very familiar situation, repeated in hundreds of stories about infidelity, and, of course, most often turns deceived husbands inside out. Note JFC. My last question is, why? I rasped painfully. She just shrugged her shoulders nonchalantly. But God, it made me angry. This is not an answer, but just some kind of careless, indifferent gesture. Why, Arya? I raised my voice. I wasn't looking for this on purpose, Sal. Well, it just happened that way. It can sometimes be lonely on such trips. When Phil suggested we go out for dinner together, I was just happy that I wouldn't have to spend a boring evening alone. Eating alone, it looks pretty sad. And he was pleasant and attentive to the little things. And over time it became obvious that we had a lot in common. The two of us had a lot to talk about. He paid me a lot of compliments, was a charming and funny conversationalist, and you thought to repay his flattery with a quick lovemaking? I interrupted her dreamy rant. No, it wasn't like that, she said. One night he knocked on my hotel room, brought a bottle of wine with him, and, well, it just happened. Yeah, I can see that it filled you with such a deep sense of guilt, I commented sarcastically. These are your words, not mine. And let's not forget how much you hated it. Although that didn't stop you from going back to him for 2 whole months, right? But you still haven't answered the question, Arya. If it was so excruciatingly bad, then why? Her face twisted into a grimace as she grimaced, as if she had come across a sour lemon. I never said I hated it. I said I hated the guilt and self-loathing that always followed. I was depressed by how terrible I felt after that. So you enjoyed making love? She nodded, sighing resignedly. Yes, everything was wonderful. Well, at least we got to the bottom of why. I smiled wryly. I'm sorry, Selwyn. I just wanted to be honest with you. No, it's okay. I asked for it. Darling, you know that we haven't been okay for a long time. One by one, all this was gradually accumulating. You and I have drifted apart and become more like friends than lovers. Yes, you probably feel the same way as I do. Our marriage, no matter how wonderful it was, has lost something. I don't know, some kind of spark, the old intimacy. And instead of talking to me, you decided. What have you decided? I wrinkled my forehead and snapped my fingers. Oh, yes, I'm going to have an affair, right? No, I guess I just got scared. I know it sounds like a belated excuse, but, Sal, believe me, I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to, but I just didn't know where to start. I want to say that we don't go anywhere anymore, Sal. All we have is work and household chores. We go to friends' parties occasionally, but I mean, you and I, we don't do anything together anymore. In the evenings we watch TV, you work on your laptop. And even when you're sitting next to me, we never talk. Her words stung painfully, but at the same time they sounded true. She was right, I felt the same way. There was indeed some truth in what she said. Sal, we hardly make love anymore. Arya continued, and her voice still sounded upset. God, we're lucky if we do this once a week. And if we do, then everything ends in a few minutes. Just 5 minutes, Sal, and you're already turning away and sleeping. You're just snoring at the top of your lungs. Damn it. And I don't even get a thank you. It was painful to hear that too. Maybe it's true, but it still hurts. So it's much better to make love to old Phil, who's from Tisdale? I asked after a short pause. It was obvious that she did not want to answer this question. But under my piercing gaze, she nodded. Yes, making love to Phil is better. But he's not as good as he was between us before, when we were making love. Nothing can compare to this. Although lately, yes, perhaps it was better with him. And he does not forget to say thank you. Arya waited a few seconds for my reaction, and when I didn't respond, she added, There's no intimacy between us anymore, Sal. When we're in bed, you're reading, texting, or checking your mail. We don't hug, we don't talk anymore. I do not know what happened, but we stopped communicating. I know that most married couples go through this at some point, but what you and I have, it seems like a dead end to me. Dead end, Sal. And I'm not putting all the blame on you. I'm just as responsible for where we both ended up. So it was easier for you to have an affair? What does that say about me, Arya? Do you really think I'm so inadequate and devoid of sanity that instead of solving the problem, you chose to betray me and our marriage? No, it's not that at all. I just didn't know how to approach you. How to tell the person who means the most to you in the world that he is nothing more, doesn't do much for you? Am I really that bad of a lover? I snapped back with wounded pride. If they were going to dump me, I wasn't going to give up without a fight. No, Sal, our bed life was fine. Until the last couple of years. And lately, I must say, it's almost gone. She looked at me with a dejected look. We are still young enough. Sal, you must have needs, desires. I know what I'm talking about, because I don't want to hide it. I have them. I felt the just weight of her words. They weighed on my shoulders like an invisible weight. But I was not the only culprit involved in the situation that developed in our relationship. If you missed my contribution so much, why not tell me about it? Why suffer in silence? The words were difficult for me, but I had to ask this question. Because I couldn't. Would you be able to? No, you couldn't either. Our bed life was like this, pathetic. Actually, I was wondering if you'd found someone else on the side. What? I almost jumped up. My God, woman. Don't you dare tell me that you did it out of some sadistic desire for revenge. Jesus Christ, how could you? I've never been with another woman. I know, she sighed. I figured it out myself. It seems like you just don't care about anything anymore. It's like you don't care, and you don't think about love at all. Arya's words cut like razors. Yes, I knew there was a problem, but damn it. There was work, home care, a car, our daughter, and of course, a family. Aging parents always had something going on that required my attention. I didn't know where to start. I tried, Sal, God knows, I tried many times, but as soon as I tried to open the door for a conversation, you rolled over and fell asleep or just walked away from it, changing the subject. It can be difficult to talk to you sometimes, even after 17 years together, or maybe that's why. What wonderful news, Arya, I replied sarcastically. Just don't expect me to just accept this shitty excuse you're using to cover up your betrayal. I'm sorry that I couldn't live up to your high expectations as a lover. Hopefully Phil from Tisdale will do better. With the last words, I pushed aside a rattling chair, quickly got up and headed for the door, simultaneously tearing my jacket off the hanger. I'm going for a walk, I said finally, slipping into the sleeves of my insulated fleecy jacket and went out into the invigorating night air. When I went out the gate, a cool breeze whistled around my upturned collar, which tightly wrapped around my lowered chin. It was cold on the deserted street, and a lazy, but rather piercing breeze was walking along it, which already made me regret my hasty flight from home. But right now I really needed to be alone. As I trudged up the narrow street, I tried to collect my thoughts, which were in real chaos at that moment. I would never have thought for the world that I would find myself in such a predicament. Yes, I agree that things haven't been all right with our relationship lately, but is this really that unusual? God, in a long family life, every couple has to go through these reefs. Lifting my shoulders and putting my hands in my pockets as deep as possible, I moved on along the road and in my thoughts. My wife and I both worked, and quite hard, in our fields. Arya traveled a lot, working as a quality manager at one of the largest supermarket chains in the country. At least once a week, she had to go on overnight trips on the spot when she visited nearby shops in our district. My own work was stressful enough, taking up more and more of my time, and naturally it was damn exhausting. Therefore, to dump all this literally on my doorstep, as Arya did, was simply incomprehensible. My mind started working, trying to solve the same brain-boring question. What should I do now? Divorce? God, I hated that idea, but I hated even more the idea of just forgiving and forgetting my wife's treacherous actions. If we got divorced, we would have to sell literally everything. The house, my business, the jointly acquired property, and of course, everyone around would know about it. My mind was poisoned and unbearably burned by the thought that I would certainly become the center of local gossip. There weren't many acceptable ways out of the impasse that Arya had driven me into. As I walked, all these old cliches and sayings kept popping up in my head. Never trust a liar. A leopard never changes its spots. A cheater once is always a cheater. They had a deep meaning. How can you trust someone after he or she ripped out your heart? Damn it, it was getting colder and colder outside. I turned back to the house. The inviting warmth of your own home, nothing compares to it. During the time that I wandered with sullen gloom in the evening cold, Arya cleared the table, washed the dishes, and poured me brandy. I thought you might need this, she gestured to the glass on the coffee table. It's damn cold outside. Thank you, it's not poisoned, is it? Taking off my jacket, I slightly twisted my lips in a grin. She laughed softly, warmly. The musicality of her vibrant laughter still made me tremble. I've always liked that sound. If I was going to poison you, do you really think I'd tell you about my affair? She chuckled, shrugging her shoulders. Arya was sitting on the couch in the living room, her legs tucked under her slender and still gorgeous figure. My wife was still a very charming woman, and I understood perfectly well why she looked interesting and attractive in the eyes of men. Arya possessed several admirable qualities. Her skin shone with a delicate olive shade, and her beautiful green eyes. Yes, those unique emerald eyes, the alluring secret of her beauty. They attracted you, carried you into the circle of light, into the bottomless pools of temptation. Her body was beautiful and slender, maybe with slightly lush excesses in some places, but on the whole, it was a very juicy figure of a mature woman. And Arya's face, those perfectly chiseled, classic features, that's where she was damn gorgeous, striking an outsider at first glance. She patted the couch next to her with her hand. Come on, Sal, come and talk to me. You are welcome. I sat down, taking possession of the glass, and for the next few minutes she sipped red wine and I sipped my brandy. Okay, Arya, I do not know why you decided to destroy our family, I spoke first, but it's true. I may not be the best lover in the world, but tonight you ripped out my heart, damn it, and I've dedicated my life to you. Setting down her glass, she wiped her wet eyes with the back of her hands. I know that, Sal. I've never doubted your love. And me too. I still love you more than ever. Good God, how can you say that? I couldn't stand it. You were literally just telling me what a lousy lover I was. And now what? Now, I see. You confess your eternal love for me. Yes, it seems cruel, and you're not a lousy lover, Sal. I am. I'm just trying to say that we are. You and me, we both let things take their course. God, it's just as much my fault, maybe even a big one. I'm sorry. I should have said that. Yes, that would be nice. Nevertheless, we ended up where we were. I took a last sip of my brandy and also put the empty glass on the table. Tomorrow, at lunchtime, I will go and find a lawyer, get some advice from him about the nuances of separation and divorce. Let's see what the hell we need to do. I felt Arya's body stiffen next to me, and then I heard her sharp intake of breath. Turning his head slightly, he saw her wiping away another unbidden tear. So that's your answer? A breakup? She said in a trembling voice. What did you expect? I asked a counter question. She shrugged her shoulders vaguely. And again I felt a stab of insulting disrespect in this rather dismissive gesture of hers. Come on, Arya. We've been together for 17 years. What did you expect? I insisted on an answer. Her eyes narrowed uncomfortably when she looked at me again. I was expecting it. I do not know. Rather, I had hopes. Yes, I was hoping for a different outcome. But if that's what you want, well, then we'll do that. By the end of the sentence, the dryness in her voice was obvious. Arya got up and carried both empty glasses to the kitchen, where she poured herself another portion of Beaujolais. Would you like some more brandy? Her voice came from there. No, make me a scotch, please. Double, I replied. A minute later, she came back and sat down again in the same place next to me. Sipping the wine, she thoughtfully turned the glass in her fingers, toying with it and watching the red liquid swirl inside. Sal, you asked me what I expected, she said again. I was afraid that your reaction would be exactly like this. Of course, in my heart, I hoped for something else. But I'm not an idiot and I knew it would hurt you. I just couldn't think of any other way to tell you. Still, I was hoping that this would serve as an impetus for a frank conversation, and that we could use this as a door to the future, a better future for both of us. What? I frowned, shaking my head in confusion. I was still completely unable to understand her logic of improving our lives, which her treacherous betrayal was supposed to help. How about we postpone the breakup for a while? She put forward a proposal. Seeing how I immediately frowned, Arya smiled thinly. Come on, do me that favor, at least for a little while. After taking another nervous sip, she continued. Look, I've learned something about myself. Well, actually, maybe about all people. It's pretty simple. What a stunning piece of news, Arya, I said, looking at her with considerable skepticism. For me, yes, dear. I've never felt so hungry as I do now. My attraction is higher now than when I was 20. I was hoping that you and I could find a way to use this to please both of us. This time I couldn't come up with a witty comment, so we sat staring at each other blankly for a while. I like making love, Sal, she said emphatically, breaking the silence. You're lucky, I snorted irritably. I know what I did was wrong, and that you have every right to hate me, but imagine this. Let's say a bomb has exploded, and you and I are standing together, hand in hand, in a huge funnel. There is no one and nothing around us. From now on, anything is possible. Literally anything. Shaking my head again, I tried to figure out exactly what she meant. Are you saying that we'll just forget about your affair, pretend that it never happened, and move on as if nothing had happened? No, Sal. That's not what I meant. Yes, I had an affair and it was wrong, but it opened the door for today's conversation. We can change the way things have been between us lately. We can start over, bring back intimacy, enhance romance. This could be the beginning of another, new life, a renewed you and me. You've lost me, Arya. If you're suggesting that I sit back and put up with your cheating because, you see, it lit your fucking fuse. Damn it, and next time you'll tell me that you've learned new bed tricks and I might like them, did I guess? She grimaced in annoyance. That's not what I meant, Sal. I just suggested using what has already happened as fuel to build a better life. I don't want what we've had lately. The truth is, I love you and I want to be with you. But I want the old Sal back. That passionate, crazy, love-making obsessed man I married. If before that my mind was clouded and my thoughts were in turmoil, now, figuratively speaking, he has turned into that cartoon character, you know, whose legs are flashing through the air with hilarious speed, unsuccessfully looking for traction on an icy road. So it's all my fault after all, isn't it? Well, of course, you are now a supermodern, truly updated woman of the new century, right? Which will take me straight to Nirvana. Sal, this novel really opened my eyes. Before I met Phil, I was just going with the flow, fulfilling my duties, and life, a bright life, passed us by. Now I feel more awake, alive, and passionate than ever. I say it again, I love you, but now I look at things differently. I listened to her, but I was still gloomy, not sharing her strange optimism. Maybe if we could talk about all this, be more open and frank before your affair. I stressed. I can't give guarantees, but maybe then we could fix everything. And again we were sitting, hunched over and staring at each other, when suddenly a pair of gears in my brain caught on each other and a light bulb flashed. Oh, my God. Wait a minute. I gasped. You know what? I've been thinking. Apparently, something happened, and you were afraid that I would find out about your betrayal from someone else. I gave her an angry look. That's the only reason you decided to come clean, isn't it? So to speak, acceptable damage control. You probably thought that if you told me about your affair yourself, and not that I would hear it from someone else, then I'll make a discount on it and treat you more leniently. Was that your idea? The expression of utter denial etched on her face looked almost comical. Sal, it's not true. I'm trying to be honest with you. She protested indignantly. Shaking my head again, I muttered, it's possible, but there's no way to prove it. All you're doing here and now is trying to mitigate your actions and their consequences, but it doesn't fucking work for me. She took a deep breath, chewed her lower lip thoughtfully, and shrugged again. I don't know what else to say, Sal. Oh, really? How about we start by saying, I'm sorry, it was a mistake, and it's over from now on? What do you say we start at least with this? She shuddered and recoiled, leaning back on the couch, under the pressure of my sarcastic growl. I did. I've already tried to apologize. And yes, it's already over, she muttered, lowering her eyes. Her attitude began to annoy me, and unable to contain my anger any longer, I abruptly left. I've had enough. I'm going to bed. With visible nervousness, she looked up at me as I stood up. Should I come with you? No, I think you'd better take the spare room, I replied rather coldly, preparing to leave. Sal, it doesn't have to be a war, you know? She spoke almost to my back, pausing for a couple of seconds on the threshold of the living room and nodding in agreement, I replied. Yes, I know that, but right now the war is something that gives me pleasure. And then I went to the bedroom. 1. In the morning, Arya greeted me while I was getting ready for work, and by the time I walked down the stairs to the kitchen, breakfast was already ready. She looked fresh and radiant. Good morning, Selwyn. How was your night? What is it? She asked. Okay, I said shortly, starting to eat. To give her her due, my wife tried to create a relaxed atmosphere this morning. She chatted incessantly at breakfast, trying to find at least some chance for dialogue, which I was not ready for, having been restlessly tossing and turning in my bed most of the night. The flame of anger was still burning inside me, and I was afraid that if I could not stand it and express what was boiling in my soul, the war between us would break out again. Half an hour later, I went to work, leaving her brooding. I had a couple of lawyers that I did business with, and I invited one of them to lunch, explaining that I needed his advice about the divorce. He showed up there with a bunch of papers in his briefcase, and we discussed the options. The current laws of the country no longer cared about good or evil, about who was right and who was to blame. Infidelity? Who cares anymore? No matter what, everything would be divided equally between the ex-spouses. There were no obstacles to selling the house, because our daughter was no longer in this former family nest, which had lost its magic of love. Arya had her own job, her own income, and a separate pension system. She was a modern, independent woman. In the event of a divorce, our assets and liabilities will be split 50-50ths. And then it will be decided which of the two of us is more attached to the house, to certain pieces of furniture or personal belongings. Of course, most of the gifts remained with Arya. Over the years I have bought and given them to her many times, on various occasions and dates. After the lawyer left, I was left alone in the office, enjoying the peace and quiet. I used this soothing silence to try to develop some kind of plan for my next actions. Yes, I could move out by applying for separation. It would be quite a simple matter to separate our financial relationships. Later, we could sell the house and share with Arya the amount received from its sale. That's it. It's simple. 17 years of painstaking, hard work, and all for nothing. At 46, will I be able to start all over again? The very thought scared me. I'm not a fan of hanging out in pubs and have never been a regular at nightclubs. All my friends and buddies were married. They were all about my age. How to start over? Go on dates again? At my age? God, that thought didn't make me enthusiastic, much less excited. On the contrary, the longer I thought about it, the more the prospects ahead made me nervous. I stayed at work until about 7 in the evening, when my phone rang. It was Arya. Are you going home, or are you staying the night somewhere else? Disappointment seeped venomously into her voice. I'm in the office finishing up some business, I said. Should I delay cooking dinner? She muttered in a not too pleased tone, in which, however, I still felt a hidden plea. No, I'll buy something on the way home, I told her. Should I stay and wait for you? I'd like to talk. Don't worry, Arya. Go to sleep. Can I go back to our bed? She asked. No, I think you'd better take the spare room, until further notice. There was a sharp intake of breath, clearly audible through the receiver. Is this really necessary? Is it necessary? No, probably not. Is it a good idea? Yes, I think so. With these last words, I interrupted the call and leaned back in my chair. Nothing made sense. I mean, you see how similar things happen to other people, and as a spectator watching from the sidelines, you think, well, if it was me, then I would have done this and that. Everything is so clear and simple, but only until you really face the need to make a decision. And this decision, and therefore the subsequent actions, radically change and break your entire old, familiar, and comfortable life. When you live with someone for as long as Arya and I have, attachments arise strong as iron ropes that cannot be broken so easily. Your lives are intertwined in the most intimate way. Families. Our parents, all four of them, live within a 15-minute drive of our house. All our holidays have always been grand family celebrations. It has never been an event of a single family. We have always been together. Arya's father and my father played golf, and they had been best friends for many years. Her brother was one of my closest friends. Together, we were engaged in the repair and restoration of an old Velocette motorcycle. It was a little project between us that we were both really passionate about. Everything was interconnected and permeated with many personal and emotional threads, and it will be very difficult to break these bonds. When I reached the house late in the evening, it was already plunged into darkness, showing no signs of life. After undressing, I poured myself a glass of scotch and settled down in the living room. Darkness, silence, and a warm, cozy blanket became my companions for a while. It was so pleasant and comfortable to relax in the soothing semi-darkness of the living room. As I walked down the hall to the bedroom, the door to the guest room opened. Arya stood on the threshold, looking great, however, as always. Dressed in a thin, translucent nightgown that did not cover anything, she whispered. Hi, honey. I wanted to pass by, but she held out her hand and held me back. Sal, please, we can be polite to each other. Okay, I screwed up, and you're mad, I get that. But of course we can act like adults, not like touchy kids. If acting like adults means having affairs, cheating, and lying, then perhaps I'd rather stay with my childish behavior. That's fine with me, I said, pulling away from her fingers. As I was leaving, I half turned around and added, Good night, Arya. Good dreams, Sal, she replied with a sadness that enveloped every word. The next few days were like the same old, broken record. Arya kept trying to get through, but the door on my side was tightly closed. We spent the whole week practically not talking, and the upcoming weekend would hardly have been easier either. I stayed in the office late and had dinner somewhere on the way home every time. I wasn't afraid of a possible confrontation. I just knew that when it happened, it would be a real disaster, and I wasn't sure that was what I wanted. I didn't stay late at the office on Friday evening, so I returned home at my usual time. It came as a surprise to Arya, and she looked shocked when she saw me coming through the door. Gee, it's nice to meet you here at a time like this, she chuckled. Ignoring her witty comment, I headed into the bedroom to specifically for bestweapon.in, change clothes. When I came downstairs, Arya had already poured whiskey into my glass while she was sipping a glass of wine. Handing me the scotch, she asked, I take it you're staying for dinner? Yes, it would be nice. While she was cooking, I took my shot of whiskey and disappeared into the study at home. It was not only mine, we both used it. What I've never done is poke my nose into Arya's personal life. I just never felt the need to check on her. I mean, who does this kind of shit anyway? All the years we were together, I trusted her. We knew each other's passwords and kept them in a shared file in a drawer. Now, using her password, I logged into Arya's email and noticed that there were several messages from this friend of hers. Phil. However, There was nothing compromising in them. It's just a correspondence about work. Shit. I logged out, angry at myself for stooping to curiosity. The fact that she did this to me did not give me the right to snoop by looking into her personal correspondence. I sent a few emails and a couple of text messages before Arya called me. Dinner is ready. I heard her voice from the kitchen. The food looked delicious, as always, and she had already poured us both a glass of wine as an aperitif for the chicken. We ate in relative silence, but the tension between us seemed to grow with each new bite we put in our mouths and each sip of wine. I noticed that instead of eating, she was sluggishly smearing food on her plate. Apparently, she was preparing to say something. "Please, can we talk, Sal? This infernal silence is getting on my nerves." She finally broke down. "Yes, it's probably time," I replied, looking up from my plate. I was trying to give us both some space. I needed time to try to process your confession, as well as what it meant to me. "Yes, I understand," she sighed. Then, looking at me with a very gloomy look, she asked, "So, what conclusions have you come to?" "I went to a lawyer who specializes in such cases," I told her. "He helped me fill out all the necessary forms. In them, I listed all our assets and printed out the business figures for the last few years. I guess we should sit down and decide what you're going to do about it." Her gloomy expression did not change as she listened to me. When I stopped, she just stared back. "I see. So this is a divorce. Then I accept it," she sighed again, stating the obvious. "Well, I don't see any other alternatives. So I'm sorry," I said with a slight shrug. "Sal, there are hundreds of alternatives. Counseling, trial separation, therapy. Do we really have to end up like this?" I downed the rest of the wine and growled. "We're ending up like this because you left me no choice. Can we recall your claims? I'm a lousy lover. I'm no match for your new lover. What else is there? Oh, yes, and our marriage has been falling apart for several years now, according to your own words. And I don't see that any of your suggestions helped in any of these aspects." "Jesus, Sal. I never said you were a bad lover," she protested. "I said that we stopped trying to change things. We no longer put any effort into our relationship, but it can be changed. It's not too late for us. Did you say, or didn't you say, that Phil is a better lover than me?" "No, damn it, I didn't say that." Her eyes flashed angrily. "I said that what I experienced with Phil was new and exciting for me. I said that I liked it more than our recent attempts, but only because you and I are both stuck in a rut of routine. But I tell you again, we could get out of this rut." "Sounds like a damn deep rut," I chuckled. "Listen, Arya, I don't want to fight, but to be honest, I don't care anymore. My suggestion is that we stop. There's no point in spurring a dead horse. You are unhappy in our marriage, and of course I am not happy with your revelations." Arya looked stunned. "You're serious?" She glared at me angrily. "That's the reason we're in this damn situation. You've lost your passion for life. You're stuck in a routine work, home, work again. We never go anywhere. We even stopped seeing friends because it turns out you don't care. You don't care." At the end, she was almost screaming. "We're in this situation because you couldn't keep your damn legs together." I snapped at her. "Don't even try to put all the blame on me, Arya. You could give me a chance, talk to me, explain how you feel before. It was your decision, and only yours, to look for entertainment elsewhere." "Yes, and I'm sorry about that. It was a mistake. I should have been braver and tried to talk to you." She lowered her tone a little. "At least then we'd have a chance." "I can't accept your infidelity," I repeated for the umpteenth time. "I've been thinking about this a lot in the last few days, Arya, and my decision is this. It's all too complicated. If I tried to come to terms with your betrayal, it would be months before I could start trusting you again." "Sal, I told you it's over," she said wearily. "Yes, and when we got married, you swore an oath of loyalty to me, but let's be honest. You couldn't keep your promise, so why should I believe you now?" "I made a mistake, Sal. Just one mistake in our entire marriage. I believe that we can fix everything. If you just open your mind and just try to imagine how this could work for us." She insisted. "I still love you, as much as ever. Now that everything is open between us, we can use this as a tool to make our new life together better," she insisted. There are things that we haven't even thought about. You seem to have forgotten in your reasoning that you have changed, betrayed my trust, lied to me, tricked me around your finger. If you've done this once, how can I trust you again? These actions of mine were caused by your inaction, she retorted, shaking her head negatively. If we could bring back the romance, add a little spontaneity to the relationship, try to create special moments of intimacy. Then Arya started up. Listen, I've revealed my feelings and thoughts to you, but what about you? Now we can be completely honest with each other. Come on, Sal. Don't tell me you've never lied to me in the past. Of course, I had to lie, because I'm a human being, and sometimes we tell lies to protect ourselves. When you said that I liked your new hairstyle, these are the things I've had to lie about. Yes, I know that I am far from perfect. This is a fact. You can say that I'm selfish, and I think I'll agree with you, because I know it myself. Finally, I know that I took you for granted, but all of this, individually and collectively, is not an excuse for infidelity. Her body somehow hunched over, and she sighed dejectedly. Is that all? The end of everything just because you don't care? Yes, you could say that. I can't give up my own beliefs, and I don't want to lose my self-esteem because of it. Arya lowered her eyes to her plate and began to pick at the food that was almost cold, and the conversation itself dried up like the air around us. The kitchen has turned into a gloomy and claustrophobic cell. Self-respect. What the hell does all this have to do with self-respect? Throwing a jangling fork on the plate, she suddenly exploded. Really? I did not remain in debt. How could you expect me to keep living with the fact that you've found yourself another lover? No real man would agree with such a thing, including me. She looked stunned, even raised her palm to her open mouth. Oh my God, are you really? Can't you give our marriage a second chance because of your wounded ego, your stupid male pride? For God's sake, Sal. It happened, but it's already in the past. The main thing is the future, and it can be whatever we want to make it. Yes, I made a mistake, but we could both learn from it. I was sick to death of arguing and pounding water in a mortar, so I just quietly boiled with anger while we hurriedly finished this unsuccessful dinner. After that, I went back to the office and took out all the papers. I dumped them almost noiselessly on the table and said calmly, but rather dryly, I think you should read this. She looked up and nodded, her disappointment obvious. Okay, was all she said. It was well past 10 in the evening when she joined me in the living room. What are we going to tell the family? After a short pause, she asked. If you want me to be honest with them, I'll do that. I don't expect you to lie for me. I'll keep your secret, Arya, I told her. I suggest you just tell them that you and I have different ideas about the future. I'm not going to ruin your relationship with them. Thank you, she whispered softly and sadly. Your mother. These secrets again. For the sake of the children, already grown up, for the sake of the family. Then don't be surprised if public opinion, in the absence of reliable information, will hang all the dogs on the innocent side, and then prove that you are not a camel, JFC note. That's all. We spent a few more days together filling out the rest of the paperwork. We decided to sell the house because none of us were that attached to it. On Saturday, we called our families together and made an announcement. Of course, for everyone it turned out to be akin to a bomb explosion. The parents were horrified, suggesting that we seek counseling, try family therapy, whatever. Arya stuck to our story about how we gradually drifted apart. Our daughter Andrea was devastated by this news. She rushed over to help me move into my new home. Even though I had a serious conversation with her, she, no matter what, tried to play the role of an intermediary matchmaker. Not knowing the true background of the events, Andrea just wanted her mom and dad to be together again. My decisive approach to the breakup, which she did not understand, drove a small wedge between us. Here, it is about this, about the consequences of silence for the sake of what? As I said earlier, JFC note, she hurried to tell me that her mother was heartbroken, that she had fallen into a mild depression. I knew what it was like, because I felt the same way myself. Not only hers, but my world has collapsed too. Damn it. I think because I was her father, she expected me to be strong, that I'll take it and magically fix it, like I've always done. Now I was returning from the office to an empty house, cooking for myself. There was nothing in the daily routine except work and TV. And mountains of dirty dishes. Yes, I have to pay tribute to my friends and buddies. They were trying to get me out of that dark hole I fell into after breaking up with Arya. They took me out for golf, fishing, and friendly barbecues. In fact, I didn't really like going to these parties because everyone seemed to feel sorry for me. They gave me advice, suggested that I not hang my nose and just move on. It's damn easy to say all this, but I'll tell you honestly, it's devilishly difficult to do it. So it still meant returning every day to an empty house, an equally empty and cold bed, and to this terrible silence. A huge part of my life had been painfully cut out with crooked and ruthless scissors, and now there was an ugly gap in it. Family gatherings were also difficult for me, although we both received mandatory invitations to them. Our families have decided that they will not play favorites and take sides. Unlike me, Arya, moving on, pulled herself out of her dark cave. As soon as she started chatting with her friends, I saw firsthand the changes that had happened to her. I had to admit that she never looked better on the outside than after the divorce. Her head was now decorated with a new stylish hairstyle, and obviously she was using a new exercise regime. Her toned forms favorably emphasized the advantages of her slender figure, and from the outside she made a damn amazing impression. Despite our breakup, Arya always tried to be nice to me. Hugs, conversations, warm greetings, and attention. I kept my pain locked up and somewhere deep inside. A punch in the gut was inflicted when she first appeared with her new boyfriend. Arya introduced me to him, and although she looked a little nervous, she remained generally radiant and happy. I watched with envy as they hugged and held hands. I went home early that day. My problem was that I couldn't find a way to start living again. It seemed like I was stuck at some dead point. My friends' wives have tried to set me up with someone a couple of times, and to tell the truth, I've gone on dates with several of the women, but the spark never got through to any of them. Arya has set the bar very high. Inevitably, I compared every new woman to my ex-wife, and none of them even came close to her. I hated it, but eventually decided that maybe my only chance at love had been missed. But I got a lot of time to focus on my work, and as a result, I've gained dramatically in this aspect of my life. The long hours spent in the office, plus the efforts made, and all this multiplied by damn hard work, gave the result, expressed in very substantial money. I bought a new car, and in addition to it, I also bought a cool motorcycle. Andrea did not stop visiting me regularly, but in general she had her own life and her own friends. It was a real shock when one day at lunch in a small cafe located in the city center, I saw Arya, who entered on the arm of another man. I was wondering what happened to that old boyfriend of hers. What's his name? Right, by the name of Phil. When she noticed me, she came over accompanied by her new boyfriend. I got up from the table, we hugged and kissed. "Can we join you?" "What is it?" she asked. I motioned for them to sit down, and when they sat down opposite, my ex-wife introduced her boyfriend. "Selwyn, this is Tim." We stretched our hands over the table and shook them, after which she began to ask about my work, in turn telling me about Andrea. Tim seemed to feel a little awkward while she was chatting, and seizing the moment, he quietly told her, "I think I'll go up to the room. I'll see you after lunch." He leaned towards her and they kissed. "Take your time," he added, getting up. When he left, I didn't fail to ask, "What happened to your previous boyfriend?" At first, she seemed a little confused by the question till she realized who I was talking about. With a casual smile appearing on her face, she casually waved her hand. "You mean Colin? Well, I still see him. It's a common thing. Does he know about Tim?" I asked sarcastically. She nodded, grinning at the same time. "Yes, they know about each other. Like I said, it's a common thing, Sal. There are no obligations. So how are you doing?" She asked a counter question. "Is there someone special in your life?" "No, not at the moment," I replied. "Sal, you need to go out more often." She became serious and frowned slightly. "You can't stay at home all the time and just rot. Andrea told me she's really worried about you." "I'm fine, Arya. I'm happy," I grumbled, although I certainly didn't really feel it. She frowned darkly. "Liar, I know you better than you think. Tell me honestly, have you been in a relationship since the divorce?" "I've been dating several times." "But did you have a relationship?" She insisted. No, I admitted irritably, embarrassed by this fact of my sad life. But you seem to be doing fine, I said, trying to change the subject. Yeah, as soon as I recovered from the breakup and divorce, life got pretty intense, she chuckled. I thought a lot and made a conscious decision that I would not let the divorce ruin the rest of my life. How's Phil doing? It slipped out of my mouth, and I immediately felt awkward. She grinned again, shrugging her shoulders. Actually, he's fine. You said you were done. Are you still having an affair with him? I was surprised. No, Sal, it was definitely over then. I did this because of us, because you wanted me to. When we divorced, I started dating him again. At that moment, I needed some sunshine in my life. And Phil, he's a nice guy, and I had fun with him. Shocked, I asked, so how many men the hell are you dating? Oh, with 3 or 4. She waved her hand casually again. Good God. I was shocked both by the news itself and by the ease with which she talked about it. My God, don't you have any shame at all? She pursed her lips and shrugged her shoulders. Why should I be ashamed? I told you that I love making love, I enjoy it, and I'm honest with all my men. They all know about each other. 2 of them have already met each other. And by the way, we spent a couple of evenings together. She winked significantly, grinning again. I felt the blood drain from my face. You mean making love in a threesome? Arya pouted with a slight smile. Yes, and it was one of the most amazing experiences in my life. She confessed, almost rolling her eyes at the euphoria with which she uttered these words. Well, good luck to you. I think you can get everything you want, I managed to say, my usual voice having failed me this time. God, who was that devilish woman? Or she has always been like this, but successfully pretended to be such a humble housewife wife before. That's what I couldn't figure out. While I was gathering my thoughts, trying to figure out what else I could say to this familiar stranger, she leaned closer and spoke herself, lowering her voice. Listen, Sal, if you're interested, we could meet up sometimes. I've never stopped loving you. Not a day goes by that I don't think about you. And I would be glad if you could come back into my life. What? I couldn't believe my ears. Do you really think I want to be part of your entourage when you're not busy? Sorry, Arya, I'm not interested in this. She made a sad face on her face. It's a pity. We had a good time together, and there is still a place for you in my heart. No thanks, I'd still prefer to keep my self-respect, I replied. Pfft, that stupid male pride again. Arya snorted. Well, I hope she keeps you warm at night, Sal. Getting up from her seat, she bent over and gave me a quick peck on the cheek. It was nice to see you again. I heard her last words before she disappeared, leaving behind a familiar scent of perfume. A year and a half or so later, I received an invitation to her wedding, but decided that being there and contemplating the triumph of my ex-wife would bring me more pain than I could bear. Andrea, of course, told me all the details about the ceremony. She was very disappointed that I refused to go there. My daughter really wanted me to see her in her bridesmaid outfit. Both then and afterwards, I thought for a long time about whether I had done the right thing by deciding to divorce Arya. After we broke up, my ex-wife seemed to have gained a second wind and new vitality. When we see each other occasionally, she looks brighter, more energetic and happier every time than ever before. Her new marriage seems strong, while I have struggled to find a suitable relationship for myself. Maybe it was my unforgettable bitterness, or maybe it was just a lack of trust in other women, which appeared due to Arya's betrayal. I don't know. It was on her parents' wedding anniversary that I met and talked to Arya's new husband. Oddly enough, he seemed like a nice enough guy to me, and eventually we ended up in a bar and started talking. After several really solid portions of whiskey were tipped inside, the atmosphere between us became somehow simpler and more comfortable. Tell me, Selwyn, why the hell did you divorce Arya? Her new husband, Trevor, asked me. Staring at him, I tried to figure out if this smart guy, knowing the whole story, was going to somehow tease me. At the same time, he could have asked this question sincerely, because Arya may have hidden the details of our conflict from him. Well, to hell with all this fortune-telling. We got divorced because she cheated on me, made love to a guy while she was not at home. I opened up, thinking that this information might shock him. Trevor just frowned in disbelief, shook his head, and poured us both another shot of whiskey. Which one? Is that all? Oh my God, man. Confused, I asked. Well, yes. What the hell would you do in my place? He shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, buddy, but I sure as hell wouldn't kick her out. Don't get me wrong. Personally, I'm glad you did it. Your loss has become my gain. I'll tell you honestly, women like her are rare. Sipping his whiskey, he added. Did you ask about my actions? Well, if I were you, I would do everything in my power to keep Arya. And what? Would you accept her betrayal and be able to live with it? I asked him, stunned. Yeah, no problem. It was just making love, right? I mean, damn it. None of us are perfect, buddy. After all, we all make mistakes, so, like I said, it was just making love. Who cares? When I didn't answer, he grinned. Buddy, Arya is the most damn beautiful woman I've ever been with in my life. What about everything else? Buddy, she's just awesome. Yes, you know that yourself. Arya is a great cook. She's damn hardworking. She keeps a great house. What else is needed for happiness? He grinned and spread his hands. Aren't you worried that she'll cheat on you like she did on me? Why would I? Nah, we're completely honest with each other. She told me about her affair, which happened when she was married to you, about how he ruined the lives of both of you. Then, she was quite open with me when we first met. I knew she was spending time with other guys too. I think she just had a little midlife crisis, and now, well, right now she and I are happier than pigs in the mud. Later, I watched them dancing together. Arya's gorgeous body pressed against his as they swayed and circled the dance floor. Trevor was right about how beautiful she was, and I've always known that myself. I left that evening, and the decision I made to end our marriage hurt and squeezed my heart that night more than ever before. My ex-wife moved on, built a wonderful new life for herself, while I seemed to be trapped in quicksand. How many of you can tell if I made the right choice?